What's up,
How you doing,
JJ?
man?
How you doing, boo boo?
Good to see you.
Good. How you been, man? How's your week?
It's been good so far, so good. We're
Okay.
rolling into the Christmas time next week, so work's kind of slowing down a little bit for us. We were trying to do some things where we were still able to do something for the guys at work, but at the same time be they're real big on social distancing and that kind of stuff. So they threw on like a little drive-through luncheon for the guys.
Oh, that's
It
dope.
was pretty cool, man.
That's
It
dope.
was they tried to do like a little play on words where they did I think it was nacho normal drive-in luncheon, something like that.
Yeah.
So everybody was under the impression we were gonna get nachos.
Okay.
So some people were like, "Well, I don't even really like a nacho, so I'm not gonna go." But they actually gave us
Mm.
like a plate and had two tamales and beans and rice.
Mm.
So it was actually pretty good little lunch. So, but other than that, man, we just been hanging out. We done Christmas shopping. This was the first year like I actually went out with Ron and
Oh
we did
yeah.
a bunch. I never. She always does like online stuff, or she'll
Yeah.
go out with her mom and
Yeah.
her sister, and they'll Christmas shop for, you know, everybody get it all done in a weekend.
Was it busy? What was that like?
Now, so we went to Ontario Mills on a Friday.
Mm.
Yeah, on a Friday, right when I got out of work, and it was not busy at all.
Mm.
There was only one. There was only one line, two lines that were really busy. Adidas, we skipped that one,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bed was it Bath and Body Works.
Yeah, Bed Bath to be honest. Well, no, there is
I think
Bath
it's
and
Bath
Body
and Body
Works. It
Works
is
where they
Bath
have the
and Body
candles
Works.
and the
Yes.
lotions and
Yeah.
the all that stuff. That line was long, but it worked out perfectly because we just stood in line and ate like our dinner
Mm-hmm.
while we waited.
Mm.
So, but other than that, man, it was not busy at all.
That's
We
dope,
waited in
man.
line for like 2 minutes to get into Nike.
Yeah.
Everything else was super, super chill.
Oh,
So
that's dope.
it was cool though, man. And then we went to Victoria Gardens the following day, and it was packed at Victoria Gardens.
Oh, what?
Packed, dude.
What'd you get from there? Just do
Nothing.
more shopping, or you
We
just
were
went?
pretty much done. We just went just to kind of get out of the house,
Oh, okay. Okay.
see if maybe there was something there um, that we could, that we saw or whatever. But there was nothing. We didn't. I don't even think we got anything from Ontario or from Victoria
From
Gardens.
Victoria Gardens.
Yeah, so
It's always pretty busy there. It's a cool little vibe out there.
it is. Yeah, it's a little different now with COVID, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, it was cool. It was alright. It was alright. There was like tons of people. The lines in every store. Dude, the Apple store line was insane, bro.
Did they have deals
Insane.
and shit? Were they
I
trying
don't think so. I don't think they ever have any
It's
kind of
just people
sales or
just
nothing.
going out there to geek out or what?
Yeah, I think I don't. I'm assuming we had to do something with the 12, the iPhone 12 that came out.
Oh, that's right. And then
Which
they're
I don't
probably
feel like it
buying
came
as a
out
gift.
that recently. I feel like it came out like
A
2 months
couple
ago for
months ago.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the line was crazy long.
They're trying to make it like a gift now or something. They're trying to
Maybe.
pick up their last minute shit.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. So how was yours? How's your work week going?
What man? I went to work Friday, and we were odds like we had like 11 people working instead of things since we pair up at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in that night, and then I was what we call like an OIC, like an officer in charge. So
Uh-huh.
kind of like a supervisor for the day.
Heck yeah.
But that was it. I mean, it's the last couple of days I worked weren't too bad, but I didn't feel good, man. I felt kind of shitty on Thursday. I went into work Friday and I was having trouble breathing, so I knew I was sick because I have stress-induced asthma. I have asthma, but it's stress-induced, so it's either like through physical activity when I get sick.
Yeah.
And so, like, just walking around, it was difficult to, I was having difficulty breathing at the time. So I was like, that's where, like, because I've been dealing with asthma since I was a kid. So
Yeah.
that's where I know, like, all right, I gotta take a couple steps back, take
Dial
my
it
hand
back.
and relax. But I went to work that night, and then I felt super shitty, man, on Saturday. So I was off Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I've literally just been laying down every day, bro,
Yeah.
chilling. That's it. And then like I ran a couple errands today, and that was it, man. But other than that, I've just been trying to relax. Everyone got sick.
Yeah.
Like Sienna's parents came down with COVID last week. Her grandparents came down with COVID last week. Her cousin came down. His girlfriend, her little sister.
Dang.
There's been like 3 or 4 more guys at work that came down with COVID. So I'm like, man, we need to. I mean, you hear different things. You hear different things of people getting sick or some people not having any symptoms. But again, I think my personal thing is like maybe it's not as bad as what we say, but I would hate to give it to someone and it affects them in the wrong way.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I had this conversation with my mom yesterday and my dad. I feel like, because my dad, he's just getting over being real sick. Same thing with my mom. Um, I don't think my dad got his test results back, but they said my mom tested positive for it. But they were saying like, oh no, it's like the flu, but it hits you like way harder. But the way that I see it and view it is they're doing so many things to stop us from keeping our immune systems and our health at a minimum. Yes, people are still going out. They're telling people to exercise, but gyms are closed down. People aren't going around and just doing daily life, right? Which keeps people pretty active, more or less.
Yeah, yeah,
They've
because they're
toned that
moving.
down. Then they don't want people outside. They don't want you have to wear a mask everywhere you go. Places are shut down, so you naturally pick up germs and little things here and there, bacteria as you touch doorknobs, as you touch handles, railings, and all that stuff builds your immune system up. But none of that is happening, so all of everyone's immune system has dropped. So that's why I think it feels like it's hitting people harder, or you feel like you're more sick because you have less of a defense for it. I don't necessarily. I understand people that's how they feel sicker, but I think that there's a reason behind why. That may be true that they do feel sicker. They do feel like they're getting hit harder with COVID versus the flu, but I think that there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
I think that there's a genesis as to why that it's that feeling of being hit so much harder, and it's because we're being held back from having our immune system be
like being
strong.
exposed.
Yeah,
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 that
just being natural.
exposure. That
That's
this a
why little.
natural cycle of
That's why little kids. That's why
yeah.
they're a lot healthier a lot of times than the adults is because they're around other dirty, germy kids all day at school, right? Ronnie rarely ever gets sick, dude. Rarely, because she's around kids all day,
Yeah.
and
So it's
it's
kind of
just
like
not.
their immune system's always working out.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And now being at home, it's not getting any flex. So
Nah.
I could see that, man. I wonder if it's psychological too, where it's like people are getting sick and they're just kind of like, "Oh shit, I'm really sick." No, I'm not in a bad way. Like I'm not talking shit about it, but I'm
No.
just
No.
saying
No.
like,
I
because I
agree.
I feel psychologically like I felt shitty and I was kind of like, fuck, man, I want to. Is this COVID? Like I went and got a COVID test and came back negative, but it was like I feel like I got to be extra careful.
Yeah.
Like it's a little taboo because
Yeah.
everyone's trying to avoid it. They're shutting down the states and shit, and so it's just like okay, like
It's
you know what?
very taboo. It's a thing. They've done a good job, and I say they meaning the media, the government, whoever has done a really good job of making people fear. Don't be that person that gives it to an old person, and that old person dies. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
They have done an extremely good job of that because even people that don't see it as big of a thing that it is, I feel like that one thing still gives them hesitation, even if they think that it's just a minor thing or it's not as big of a deal or it's being blown up. That fear of potentially passing it to somebody, and it's a real fear. I mean, you never want to get even if you're just sick with the flu or a cold. You never want to. It's just rude in a sense, right? To
yeah. To
give it
like
to somebody.
pass it to people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But they've made such a
yeah,
big deal of the coronavirus deal
yeah.
that that really yeah, it makes people think twice about the decisions that they make.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. Um, uh, Mom and dad's neighbor, great family. I love them, and they their niece had COVID and she was pregnant, and she has a 1 year old, and she died giving birth. The doctor said it was COVID related. It was due to the COVID, but they were like on Anderson Cooper, I think, on the Anderson Cooper show on CNN, and just sad story, man. So it's like again, like you're hearing the like I lost my sense of taste and that's it to where like you hear someone's dying from it. You're like, damn. Because there was this guy talking about it when I went to get tested and I got tested out in I wanted to keep saying Miraloma for some, not Menifee, Wildemar, out in Wildemar,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Damn, why'd you have to drive all the way out there?
it was at this place called like Accelerated Urgent Care or something like that. Like
Uh-huh.
they have like a 1 day test,
Oh,
but
okay.
I have Kaiser,
Uh-huh.
so they charged me $175 for a rapid test. So they'll swab you up,
Yeah.
and you'll have your results within like 15
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, yeah.
So I did that, and then they came back and they're like, "Nah, you're negative." So it's like, "All right, cool." So it's just either the cold or the flu or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I was still like, I still felt like shit, and especially with work, I'm not gonna be at work trying to fight people and doing crazy shit or doing all this extra shit if I
Well,
don't
you got
feel
to be
good,
on
bro.
point too.
Yeah,
You
man.
know, you
Fuck
can
that
never be
shit.
lax and I'm just gonna take it easy today.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Or
that's the
even
day.
expect that it's gonna be
That's
an
the day it
easy
turns
day.
up, and
Yes,
you're,
right.
you got to be even more on.
Yeah, and I'm
So
unprepared. So, you know what I mean? So it's just something like that. But this guy was talking about the virus and he was saying he was looking at the vaccine. He was an older dude. And he was like, I guess he had talked to some medical professional, someone that he knew.
hmm
And they were kind of trying to explain it to him. And they were telling him that, like, the vaccine is to protect the individual. Like, he was saying from what he understood. And I wouldn't quote myself on this, but I'm just kind of reiterating what this guy was saying. But he was saying that like supposedly the vaccine's to help protect you, so like you don't get sick to the point to where it could be detrimental to your health, like crazy detrimental to your health.
yeah,
But you can still pass the virus on to people, even though you get the vaccine. So he was just like thinking to himself, like, well, what would be the purpose?
yeah,
Like, if we can still get it, you can still get sick. But I guess as an individual, it's probably not going to be able to kill you. I guess. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So like it's gonna be a weakened version of the virus if you can still contract the virus.
That's weird.
So I guess similar to the flu, like getting a flu shot. So you get a
Yeah,
little bit of virus so that you're already creating antibodies for it. So then
yeah,
it's not gonna be as crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't know, man. Oh, I figured myself like we're just waiting to see how it goes and go from there. But it seems like everyone's getting it right now. Everyone's coming
Yeah,
positive.
yeah. I didn't get tested, and I always there's a big push for people to get tested because obviously the more negative tests you have over positive, the quicker you can quote unquote move from one thing to another as far as like things being open and restrictions being lifted and stuff. Um, with all this like extra lockdown, whatever. But I don't know. I just felt like if I'm not sick. Um, I don't feel any symptoms. I haven't really been around anybody. Like when my mom got it, like we didn't go hang. Like we hadn't seen them in like 16. I think they started feeling sick on the first, and the last time we saw them before that was like like towards the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't. I mean, we haven't even been around people like that. And I was just like, nah, I'm just. I don't want to. I don't want them to tell me I'm positive, and I don't feel anything, and then I have to stay home from work, and I have to do all this stuff, because to be honest too, there's so many like discrepancies in the testing, in the results of the testing, in the efficacy of the testing. Right? I mean, um, Elon Musk just did that thing where he took 4 tests in one day. 2 came back positive, 2 came back negative.
Mm.
So what are you supposed to believe?
Mm.
What is the real what is the real thing? I know when the tests were first coming out, they were like 60% false positive
Mm.
rating. So like how much do you trust it? How
Yeah.
much?
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
accuracy. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Oh shit.
it's kind of I don't know. People have their their feelings and their ideas towards it, and I don't knock nobody for feeling a certain way, right?
Hmm.
It's absolutely, but I'm not gonna allow that to dictate how I live and how I do
Yeah,
things.
yeah, you're
You know.
right, man. You're right.
So and I'm comfortable making those decisions and living with the decisions that I make too. So
Hmm. Yeah, true. True. We have to
that's what's
be.
important.
You're right. Well, today we wanted to hit on fatherhood
Hmm.
and talk about being fathers. Both of us are fathers, and
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit last one, but this one
yeah,
we thought like, man, there's so much more.
so much, so
Yeah,
much.
so much more we can kind of touch on and give our experiences and
Yeah,
um, the stuff that we've had to deal with and come up on,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
And just in perspective, right? Our perspectives and what we've learned and so forth, especially being young fathers,
yeah,
right? And it's one of the things I took some notes. I was like, oh man, I gotta start taking some notes on this shit, man, and seeing what
yeah.
we just kind of keeping my mind. I have to because I'm always all over the place. And but even to start it out for today, one of the things that before we get into, we have our questions that we created and just flip flopping and kind of going through there and picking our brains and giving some knowledge,
Yeah, we'll shoot
right?
shoot some stuff back and forth.
Right, and then but so before we begin, just discussing the background. How many kids do you have, and how old were you when you had your first one, and then how old were you with the latest one?
So I was 19. I was 19 when Charlie was born.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 19 when Charlie was born.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Got five
I
total.
have five total.
And
Four
how old
girls,
are they
four
all?
girls, one boy.
Four
I
girls.
know, dude. Girl dad all the way. All the way, man. It's crazy. Um, 14, 11.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Jet's 11. That's trippy. 9, 5, and 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah. So
Little
we
Tilly
had her
monster.
earlier this year, and I was 33 when I had
33.
her.
33 with Till.
Yep. And that's the last one.
Okay.
That's the last one for sure.
Because I
I
was.
definitely would have wanted to go for more, but
Oh yeah, we talked about that because your number was 8, right?
yeah. Yep.
8 out of 5.
Yep.
That's hardcore, bro. I love kids, man. That's
Yes.
hardcore.
So fun.
We
So,
we
so,
we
so
we
fun.
we're trying for a 1. I would say I want to try for 2 more.
Yeah.
And we'll go to 4. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, it's
As much as we like to think we're in control, we're not.
we're not.
Nah.
It's God's
It
decision.
happens
We'll see.
when yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So how old were you when you had Sadie?
I was I was 20 when Nee got pregnant, and I had just turned because Sadie's birthday is on the 24th, so I had just turned 21 like a couple weeks before she was born.
Yeah.
And Nee was still 20, and then when we had Booba, I was 26 when we had Booba. I was 26 when we had Oliver,
Okay.
and
How much? So they're 5 years apart.
5 years apart. Yeah,
Okay.
5 years. So it's yeah. Oh, well, I guess we can get into that dynamic later, but they're 5 years apart,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. My oldest and the baby, essentially are 14 years apart.
yeah,
Which is crazy when you think about it in that aspect, but it's pretty cool in the aspect of I have a there's like a direct link, and I kind of have a little bit of a like a source for the age gap and how it's worked. My mom is, I believe she's 13 years older than her youngest brother, and they have an extremely close relationship. My mom was kind of like a mother figure to her younger
to
brother.
her younger brother.
Yeah, but they've always been extremely close. They have a really good, really tight bond. My uncle Jason, who lives out in one of the Carolinas.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so it's cool, and I see that developing with Charlie and Tilly. I can really see her care and her love and her wanting to nurture more so than she did with any of the other kids with Tilly. She just she can I don't and I'm not sure if it's maybe her maturity level.
Yeah, being 14 for sure.
Yeah. But she just it's at a whole separate thing than it was with any of the other kids, and just how much she adores her and loves her and spends time. It's cool, man. I love it. And the kid, I think it's a good example for the other ones. They see that nurturing hand being given to the baby, and
Like
then,
she's taking that leadership as a sibling,
Yep.
and they're just kind of following suit.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's cool, man. I like. Of course, it's not without its issues and fights. And all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah. There's always gonna be some quirks that come with it, for sure, man. That's dope, man.
Yeah.
That's dope. So even as we start to go with with the background, how many kids we have when we started, and where we're going from here, is really getting into our fatherhood and our perspectives. And so I have my questions that I came up with. So what
Okay.
were the questions you had? What would be
I
the
think I
first one?
wrote
You
up
can
like
start off.
I think I wrote up a. Oh, okay. I hit you with the first one. The first one is simple. It's simple in concept, I think, but so the question was, when did you know you wanted to be a dad? And I think there's a lot of different directions you go. But like it's like for example, earlier today, right? We asked
Jetro, yeah.
Jet, he's 11.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want kids? Like we think about it in those aspects. And then even, I mean, even it may sound silly, but like you could even say, I know I wanted to be a dad when I found out she was pregnant, right?
Yeah.
That's not something you even think about. But was there a certain time and a certain moment you can think of where you were like, you know what? Like, I can't wait to be a father, or I can't wait to do this with my kid. Maybe it's something that was like an example you have from your dad or from an older relative that you're like, oh man, I can't wait till I get to do that.
You know what it was, man? I never thought of it like from like a loving emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like when you become an adult, you get married and you have kids.
Okay.
And then to me, it was more so of like I wanted to hurry up and become an adult so I can do
So
whatever the
you
hell I
saw it in
wanted to do.
almost the traditional sense, get married, have a family type
Yes.
deal. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of like the American dream type deal of like, oh, this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
Like this is what's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
not even having the reality behind that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, man. Definitely didn't think about it as like. I want to say I was a kid. I know for sure, like in elementary school,
Yeah.
and just seeing like my grandma and grandpa, just the normal dynamic that I saw, and mom and dad, and but not really, just kind of thinking of like, yeah, I can be an adult. Kind of like with like drinking beer, like you like, oh, I can't wait till I can drink beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
with us with our cigars, right? Like as soon as
Yes.
you turn 18, we went and bought a cigar,
That's
just because we
exactly
wanted
what
to
we
have
did.
a cigar.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, so I
Sicker
would
than a
say.
dog that first time smoking it too.
Yeah,
Like we
remember
were ready for that kind of stuff.
that? We're like,
Yep.
yes, yeah, for sure. But
Yeah.
how about yourself? What do you think?
I don't know that I can pinpoint a certain like age, like you're saying, where I was like, oh man, I want to be a father. I think it did really hit when after Charlie was born, and I was like, well, I don't have a choice in the matter anymore. Like I am a dad. Now I have like responsibilities and all this stuff, and then I really started to um, realize, like, man, like this, I love the love of a kid, and I think that stems a lot from when I grew up. We had two really close family friends, and they both had handicapped sons, mentally handicapped sons. And I absolutely loved playing with them. I got along really good with them, and I've always had this soft spot in my heart for kids with like disabilities,
Yeah.
Down syndrome, stuff like that. And maybe it was maybe having those relationships kind of affected that, but I always felt like that's the type of like caring I wanted to do for somebody. I always liked building them up and talking to them and making them feel good, and that kind of thing. Because a lot of times, regardless of how old they are, they still have the maturity and the mental capacity of like a child.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So I think that definitely fueled into me
That was when it started. You think?
understanding and really really comparing the two, of being like seeing those people and then having that same thing with Charlie now,
Yeah.
and that being with my kids. And then I think it's always been like a joke thing when I was younger, but it's always been, I've always wanted a bunch of kids. I've always wanted a lot of kids. I've always liked the idea of big family.
Of a big family.
Love it. It's crazy. It's busy. It's insane. It's messy. It's all of that stuff. But all of that stuff, I like to stay busy. If I get like lazy, and it's like lazy 9,000. I do nothing. I don't even think, dude. My brain, dude, I'm
You dead?
just shut down. So
That's
the
funny.
busier I can stay, and the busier the kids have me. I think I don't know, dude.
Just to keep going.
Yeah, I love it. I enjoy it. So,
So that was a manifestation, as kind
I
of
think
seeing
so.
that and being like, "Oh, that's dope." And then the
If I think,
transition
yeah,
once you
yeah.
had.
If I think
Charlie.
about it now, that's what I would. That's that. Yeah, that would definitely be what I think is the genesis of the idea of being a father.
About how old do you think that was?
Man, I've known them. I've literally known those guys my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the earliest memories would probably be, I don't know, like elementary school.
Mm.
Going over and hanging out with him. One of them,
Mm.
his name was Robert. He absolutely loved Barney.
Oh yeah.
Loved Barney, dude. And I even remember consciously thinking, like, dude, I'm like in fifth, sixth grade. Like, dude, kids don't watch Barney in fifth and sixth. But
Yeah.
I had absolutely no problems with watching it with him.
Yeah.
It it,
Yeah.
meant- it was nothing to me. It wasn't an embarrassment thing. It was
Yeah.
like, dude, look at the joy that this
That
kid
he's
gets out
getting.
of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to say he's probably 3 or 4 years older than I was,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just, I mean, it was an absolute joy for him.
That's dope,
And I was like,
man.
dude, look at like, what is better than look how purely happy that they are, right? And look how much that this is, what this is doing for them. Like, who cares if I'm embarrassed about Barney at,
Yeah.
9 years old, 11
Yeah.
years old, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Ain't a big deal.
That's dope, man. That's dope. I had and it kind of flows right into the question. The first question I had too was what was your perspective of what a father was? So maybe not as a kid, but when you can kind of comprehend the perspective of a father, like when, let's say, like for me, I would say it was around when I was like a teenager, 16, 17 years old, was when I kind of started to think about the concept. But I'll let you kind of dig off into that. But the question is, what was your perspective of what a father was? And once you became a father, what did being a father mean, or what did being a father mean to you? So what your perspective and what you expected and what you wanted to be,
Yeah.
like, did it cause, what was there, like, were you looking at dad and being like, I want to do this different, or I want to do this, and then once you became a father, what was your perspective then?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I think I really um so my dad is one of the hardest working men I've ever met in my entire life. And I think a lot of people that know him would probably say the same thing.
Word, yes,
Um,
yes,
it's just the drive that he has.
yeah,
It's almost uncomprehendable
yeah,
the amount of like dedication to what he does. It's crazy. You know what I mean? So I think, especially from my dad, because, and I think he got a lot of that from his dad. Right, there wasn't a lot of affection shown there. My dad was, he wasn't like a grouch or a grump or nothing like that, but he wasn't really like lovey dovey and hugs and kisses and stuff like that. So I think initially what I saw father was as a provider, because that's exactly what my dad. I mean, he would literally do anything he needed to provide for his family, right? And I think that's maybe in a traditional sense too, right? And we're not that old. We grew up in the late '80s, '90s, But my mom was the nurturer. She was the one that showed the affection, that gave the love, that did all that stuff. And my dad was out busting his butt every single day on roofs doing all that stuff. So
and that was like outside of his normal job.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
his
that's a
side
side
job type
job.
stuff. So I think
Yeah.
initially what I saw, my perspective of a father was, and it was early. I have very early memories of my dad being gone like on the weekends, and I don't think I ever, um, at the time, was like, "Where's dad?" Like I knew exactly what he was doing, and partly because he brought me along with him. I went and did a lot of side jobs with him. I think that kind of fed and nurtured the kind of like work ethic that I try to have, now in the stuff that I do, was having him as that example. So I think early on, that's what I saw. When I became a father, I really realized the lack that was there in the relationship I had with him in that affection part of things, which is crazy, man. Because I see my dad now with my kids, with his grandkids, and he hugs on them, loves on them, all of that stuff, man. And it is amazing to see. But I've never felt like, oh, I wish you would have done that with me. That's never been like a feeling that I had. But it definitely brought to my attention the affection I want to show to my kids. Like, dude, I kiss Jed on the lips. He's 11 years old. I'll probably never stop kissing him on the lips. I don't see it as a weird thing. It's just something we've done, and I'm not trying to necessarily like shy away from it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and I think using the perspective that I originally had with my dad being a provider, it's definitely when I had a kid so young, and it was like, dude, I'm 18 years old. I'm playing football. I don't even have a job. Like, what am I gonna do? It was an automatic switch into you need to provide. So that got me into where now, I mean, a huge blessing that I'm in the career that I'm in now. But that's the reason I would have never done what I'm doing now if it wasn't for that, because it was the mindset of now I need to provide.
Yeah.
I have now have a family. Like my dad had a family. He provided for us. I need to provide, right? So it was kind of like that example I took and I used unconsciously, not even thinking about it.
It was just
This is
subconscious.
this is
Yeah.
this is how it's got to be. This is what's got to happen.
This is
So,
what I got to do.
yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's kind of how that worked. But
I and we've talked about this before because my biological dad was never in the picture, and I always see like it's kind of weird because in the late '80s and the '90s, there was a lot of black fathers that were like just absentee. Man, the motherfuckers was gone. They weren't in the family. Like it's like everyone, like from all of our brothers and sisters and all the different brothers and sisters that we have, with just you know what I'm saying. Like growing up, we see it, but I remember like one of the main things that I always looked at was like my biological dad was never there. You know what I'm saying? So like the absence of him not being there was like I felt like I didn't know a lot and I didn't really know where to start.
Yeah.
But my mom met my dad Kevin. They got married and to me again, like I said before, and I'll always say this, Kevin's my dad. Till the day I die. That's pops.
yes.
You know what I mean? That's the dude. And it's big because he always like you know when you step into a relationship with the woman that has kids and it's a big role to fill. You know what I mean? Even like with Sienna now, with that motherly role, and she kills it, but dad killed it as well. But I remember like early on in my childhood, I always focused a lot on like my dad not being around, and it always hurt my feelings. I always felt like, damn man, like especially you see other kids with their dads, it felt like damn, like my dad doesn't give a fuck about me. Like for a while, I never wanted to talk about it because then it was like I was giving light to it. I
Did you
had
feel
to,
like it was your fault,
it,
or just that it was messed up that he didn't want it?
you know, I didn't feel like it was my fault. I was never really clear on why, but I remember feeling um like he just didn't give a fuck. Like I remember feeling like, damn, like what? How do you like have a kid and just not care?
Yeah.
Like he was just like, I don't give a fuck that you exist. Like I don't care that you exist. You know what I mean? And for a while that felt like a lot of anger. You know what I'm saying? As like a young kid, it felt like a lot of anger, and it felt like to have to admit to people or to talk about it and to say like, oh yeah, I have a dad, but I don't know who he is. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about it. I know his name and that's it. You know what I mean? Like he'll call every now and then, and when I was real young, he would come and pick me up. Probably till I was like 5 or 6 years old, but he would never like I would go and play with the other little kids.
Yeah.
And then he would kick, you know, like I wouldn't see him, and then he'd take me home, or somewhere my older brother would take me home. But it was kind of weird because I don't know. I just didn't really have much of an idea or concept. And then with dad, um, dad was kind of like the enforcer. Like he was always like that disciplinary guy. He was in the Marine Corps. So it was always like dot dot dot. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was the same thing. Like mom was always like loving. Mom was always nurturing. Mom, like I spent a lot of time with mom. Like going to the grocery store, going to the bank, like just talking to her about life. Like so, I feel like I learned so much like in that relationship. To where with dad didn't really like. We didn't really like engage much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like dad did his own thing. Like he always liked his little video games. He always like had his space and time, but he got up, went to work, took care of shit, and that was it. You know what I mean? And then as far as like Dad was always the one where mom's taking us grocery shopping, or not grocery shopping, like school shopping. Dad's like, "Oh, make sure don't spend over $100. Don't buy them." And then
Yeah, yeah.
we come back and he don't care about shopping and none of that
Yep.
shit. But he's coming back like, where's the receipt?
Yeah.
And so mom's like, "Hey, I'll give you these kicks. Like, give me
Yeah,
some Air
yeah.
Max 95s. They're $120." But say, "Hey, tell your dad we spent 80, 90."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And dad trying to find the receipt. Mom's like, "I don't have it." He's like, "You're trying to hide the receipt." So like everything was real big on discipline and like respect with him.
Yeah.
And and like integrity. I remember being like 11, 10, 11 years old and dad talking to me about integrity, like making me look at the definition of integrity. So I think like for him, it was like a heavy role on like what he learned from the military. And even now, like dad doesn't talk much about his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm wrong, I think my grandfather passed away when dad was younger. So I don't know. I think from my perspective, like I think Dad probably didn't have as much depth on being a father himself as well.
Okay.
So like his thing was like, all right, what have I learned, and where do I go? Like he learned from the Marine Corps, he learned values, and
Yeah.
he learned his morality from the Marine Corps. So he thought that was important. Like that was like his first thing subconsciously to teach us,
Yeah.
and to make sure that like me and David were good men and we were good boys.
Yeah.
And we always got a lot of accolades on it because we were always like, yes sir, yes ma'am.
Respect. Yeah.
We always had a lot of respect for people, and people would always be like, hey, these are good kids.
For sure.
So I think for like what dad was trying to achieve and accomplish, he did. And but I definitely like I felt like individually like I wanted more time on my dad, and I feel like I put more stress like on myself, like mentally, emotionally, what I thought about dad, based on like my dad not being there, right? So
Okay.
since Johnny wasn't there, right, I was like, well, Kevin has to spend way more time with me,
Yeah.
and but he kind of didn't, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of didn't know how to express that either.
Yeah.
Like football was kind of like our like little link sometimes, but we didn't really have like a lot of shit like that. Didn't wasn't like taking us like fishing and stuff. So I always kind of felt like I wanted dad to spend more of that individual time.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like now and adult Johnny, I feel like I needed that because I needed to be reminded that I like someone cared about me. And I wanted someone to fill that void. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
because he didn't like, or necessarily like from my perspective as a youngster,
Right.
like it was just kind of like, well, like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so, but I think once I became a father, it was super important. Like being there in time was most important, right? Like
Yes.
I had the fear of like, could I provide like, oh shit, and the same
Yeah.
thing led me to my career. I wanted to go to the military, and but I didn't. I got into my career in law enforcement, and which is still dope. But like being there for Sadie was what's most important because I went to MEPS. I did my ASVAB. I scored high on my ASVAB, and the doctor that was there to do my medical was like, "Nah, it's too late. You got to come back." So I was with the Marine Corps recruiter, and that night I came back and he told me that night that she was pregnant, and so I was like, "Oh well, you can live on base. Like, come, we can. It'll be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Like the Marine Corps said they're gonna pay me $1,200 a month." And so she was like, "Nah, negative."
Yeah.
And so my first thought was like, I cannot be absent. Like I have to be there for my
Yeah.
daughter, and I have to be there.
Yeah.
So that was like the main thing of where it all started.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That makes sense because that kind of follows into what something I wrote down as well. Is do you think, and if so, how much did the example of either a father or an older sibling or whatever, did that have an effect on who you are now as a father, and how much did it have on you as a father? You know, you kind of touched on it a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Johnny wasn't there, so you needed to be there. Right? So that
Yes.
was kind of like you took the example of one and let it fuel your decision to do the opposite.
Yes.
Right, similar to
Yeah.
what I said. Right, my dad wasn't super affectionate with us, and I kind of let that fuel. And not that, and it's weird because I don't necessarily feel like it was something that I needed or that I even wanted. It wasn't there, and it just didn't. It didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But giving the affection, if you will, to the kids, like I feel like is important. It's important to them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important to me now. So
Mm-hmm.
that same thing, right? Whatever wasn't there, I've now used to feel something that I have.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. Because I always remember like looking at other people and seeing like dad Jaime, right? Um, I always admired and noticed how hard he worked myself. Like without us ever having the conversation, like
Right.
man, he always busted his ass. And it was kind of like, or even some of the weekends where we went to go help him, and I
Yeah.
was like, damn, like he's doing this by himself. And to him, it was like clockwork, and that was something I always admired. And what started to happen because I was looking for all this energy, like I started to really take notice, and I was very observant of everyone around me. So like Jaime,
Yeah.
Michael Hanna, when I grew up with Michael Hanna's dad Herschel, um, and I would always like look and kind of pull a little bit around. Like, I mean, I'm blessed. God blessed me from giving me good males, like good male examples to look at,
Yeah.
because I know there's a lot of young kids, especially a lot of young black kids, where and we lived over on the east side, grew up in the neighborhood, like our best friend Tashima and Tashawn, and if you don't have that direction and mentally you're not looking for that direction, you can get lost real fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not to say that Tashima or Tashawn lost. I'm just saying, like, from being my memory as a young kid, and like those are the youngest kids that used to come hang out with us, but their father was absent as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so you just kind of have a bunch of little youngsters that are just kind of running around, like kind of trying to navigate through life without having that influence.
Right.
Because even though my mom's there, or even though mom is there, it's still not the same at all. You
But
don't
I
get
think,
that.
and there's things too that I think as fathers, we didn't, as fathers now, we didn't take into consideration when we were children, right? Like kind of going back to your first question, there are so many things that we deal with now as fathers, whether it be work related, the relationship we have with our wives, something external, right? It could be something minute to what a child thinks, has to do with, a pipe burst in the house. The kid has no idea what that
Mm-hmm.
even means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those things, right? If it becomes a negative, it can become a very negative, impactful moment to a child
Mm-hmm.
that they don't understand context. They just see that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I look back now, and some of the memories I have of my dad or of my parents, I'm able to in a sense insert context and be like, well, this could have been a situation where maybe they had something going on, or maybe they were dealing something with my dad's side of the family, or with my mom's side of the family, or maybe when my dad was sick. Like that's kind of what that memory thinks of. So it's almost you end up getting more grace as you become a father for your
Yes.
dad and the
Yeah.
stuff that happened when you were a child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which you never, as a child, it makes no difference. You didn't get the Game Boy, and you're pissed at your dad because you didn't get the Game Boy. You
And
don't
you're
get,
like, he
you
doesn't
don't,
love me.
yeah, you don't care. You don't care what the reason is. You just didn't get what you wanted. That's all that matters.
You know what, man? My dad
So,
never bought me a dirt bike, bro. I was pissed,
yeah,
bro.
dude.
I was pissed.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, ah, man, I get it,
I will
man. I
never,
get
and
it.
that's the one thing I'll never forgive my dad for not buying me a weight set. Dude, do you remember he used to have that big ass chain in the backyard, a digging bar? He'd be like, do curls with the digging bar.
You know, he was always like that, though. Like,
Yes,
he was very resourceful.
yes.
Like, so now as a kid, we're like, he just doesn't care. But as an adult, we're like, no, man, he's just like, bro, you can get the same effect with that.
Hmm.
Like, just use that and we got it. You don't have to spend any extra money.
I think I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it on one of the shows, but my dad welded a steel bar
Mm-hmm.
to a like a 12 by 12 steel plate,
Uh-huh.
and he would have Dalen set cans up in the garage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he would save cans, and I would
Mm-hmm.
have to go around with that bar and smash all the cans. He was like,
Mm.
"That's your workout.
Mm.
You want to work out? That's your
There
workout."
you go.
Granted, it's a super good work, but it ain't, dude. It ain't pretty. I don't
Yeah,
have the
you're like,
dumbbells. I don't have the curl bar. But I was
yeah.
working out. But he was always
Yeah.
like, "Nah." He's like, "You don't need, You don't. I got plenty of weights around here. You
Yeah.
see that pile of dirt? Move it from
Yeah.
over there to over there. There's your
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing though. He don't get a pass.
No,
He don't get a
you know,
pass for that. No. But look at me now. I got
man.
a big old weight set on the side of the house. I don't use.
You
So
don't use it.
yeah. So he
You know,
wins.
kids'
But
eyes are always bigger, man, and they're always big, and that's one of the things you really notice too. Like Oliver and Sadie got a gang of shit, man. They're always getting shit from the family, cousins, aunts, uncles. Like they're just getting spoiled, man, and they still want more. So like as a father, you're like, damn, man, relax, like
yeah.
slow down, and you start to really definitely make that connection as a youngster too. Is like, damn, like you're putting a lot of stress on being a father. A lot of times is like as I come to realization as I gotten older, like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, my dad was shitty when I was young," and my dad, and I'm just like, "Hold on, man. Like, let's take 10 steps back. Like,
Right.
what mind frame are you coming from with this?
What
Like,
lens are you viewing
yes, what
the
lens?
crappy dad from?
Yeah, like a little kid, like
Yeah.
you. What did you know about being a dad at the time you were 11 years old or 12 years old or 13 years old? You didn't know shit. So like intellectually, logically, like where's the basis of the comment or the foundation of the argument that you're making now at this point?
They have no reference
You have
point
no, yeah.
to pull from.
There's
So
no solid reference, and it's just like
it's just
that's
it's most of the time that comes from a selfish view,
yes,
right? It's
yes,
what wasn't done for me.
yes,
That's why that's what fuels their anger.
yes.
I mean that's what kids. One of the first thing that kids even do as a baby. I've seen 5 kids do it in my own
Yes.
household. Is mine,
Yes.
mine.
Yeah.
Right. It's self. They want the self preservation and the self satisfaction.
Yes. Yeah.
So when it doesn't happen, then it's a, that's where that
They're
stuff
pissed
comes out.
off about it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, huh?
So
I
who's next? You next?
yeah,
Me?
you got it. You're
Me?
up next. Yeah, I had the
Let's
last
see what else
one.
I had. We did that one. Oh, I'll save that one for last. This one's kind of like this goes into being a father of a girl and a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there are double standards when raising girls versus boys? And how are you going to navigate that as you grow and as you help raise and nurture your kids into going right? One rule that applies for boys does the same rule apply for girls, right? And obviously, I think number one thing that comes to every dad's mind and every boy's mind is the dating thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If Jet starts dating an older girl, I'm like, high five, bro. If my little girl starts dating some older dude, I'm like, bro, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like that's something we haven't necessarily had to deal with yet, but that's coming for sure. It's coming.
Oh, 100%, bro.
Oliver's gonna be a little lady killer. Jet's gonna be a little lady. We're gonna be in trouble, dude.
Bro.
And I have 4 daughters,
I
so I got. Yeah, dude. There's gotta be something. So
bro, it's funny you say that because there is a difference. Like you have to be a different dad. I was so afraid of having Sadie. Like I remember, like when the doctor told us, like, hey, it's a girl. I was like. I was like, check again, and they're like looking, and they're like, yeah, it's a girl. I'm like, no, 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 no. What is that right there? I literally was like shitting bricks, man, because I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna raise a little girl? Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then a little bit was like pride and ego, like I don't want to raise a girl. Like, and I was like, man, it was stupid, man. The day I saw her, I just broke down, bro. And I was just like, what do I do? I want to find out, and
to that point, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. We'll jump back on it. Is right. The machismo side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I make men, right? Like my seed is men. But I heard a very interesting perspective, and it's completely baseless. But if you look at and it was specific to like fighting, right? You look at all of the toughest, baddest dudes who are fighters. What do they have the majority of? Girls. Right, and their little theory was, well, it's the universe balancing. that man is so much man
Yeah.
that he's got to balance the rest of the world with
He,
letting him have
he needs
girls.
to slow down.
Yeah, yeah. You give that testosterone to another one, it's gonna be game over.
Bro,
So I just thought
bro.
that that was interesting,
You know,
right? Some of the best
yeah.
fight, John Jones, one of the best fighters of all time, all
Mm,
girls. He's got all girls,
mm,
right?
mm.
So it was just, it was interesting the way that he kind of put his little twist on it. But yeah, I agree. I always, I mean, of course, every man wants a son. And I
Yes.
was like, dude, what am I gonna do? I'm 19 years old. And I'm gonna have a little baby girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this is gonna be bad.
Psychologically, that's rough,
But you're
bro.
like, oh my god, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine any different.
Yeah, it's rough. Psychologically, it's rough. But I think now I have a different perspective, like, especially because I've always called myself a Christian, and not from the aspect of religion, but spirituality. And um, I look at it as like my kids, like God is my mentor and my father as well, and my kids are God's children as well, and I have to be right. We're Christians by actions, not by words. And so now I have to lead them in the same way, and I have to want for them, and I have to want them to be the same people that God wants me to be. So like it changed the perspective now of like this boy girl type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I always mess with Sienna like, man, Oliver's as half Vietnamese, half black. He's gonna be killing them, right? He's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
like, come. I'm like, man, Oliver's gonna have a different girl every day.
Yeah.
And Sienna gets so mad, bro. She's hot. I'm like, bruh.
It's facts
And
though.
she's like, you won't
Facts.
say that for Sadie because like Sadie's a girl, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're right.
Yep.
But I don't care. Like
Right.
that's Oliver's gonna be dad. I'm gonna be like, come here, boy. Which
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
gets so mad, bro.
Yeah.
When she comes back,
Yeah.
she's gonna get mad. But no, I mean, she's right, and she's saying like, look, we gotta raise a young man that is gonna respect women, and again, it's the standpoint of being a good person and having the good morality and good morals, is like just being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so I've kind of I dove away from
Yeah.
that concept of like, oh, there we have to focus and look at different things from boys to girls, but we gotta be the same. It has to be equal.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I struggle and I found myself struggling with Jet is Ronnie. She'll say that I'm too hard on him, and my excuse is and has been, well, you're not a male, so you don't understand what it's like to be a male and to raise a male
Yes.
from another male's perspective. And I agree, I can be too hard on him. I do expect a lot of him, but at the same time, I'm not. I didn't grow up in his situation and circumstance either, right? I didn't grow up with four sisters.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow up as essentially one of the middle children, right? I was the oldest. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and not to mention too, 99% of Jet's cousins are all female,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
it's a female dominated thing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when he tries to express himself, he doesn't necessarily know how to do it the right way. It's just it's something that I have to kind of see and correct. And trust me, man, I've apologized to that boy a lot more than I should have had to have for losing it on him
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not being understanding and stuff. And I try, but it's different in the way in the aspect of men and women are different.
Yes.
They're different, and they're different for a reason. And God made us different for a reason. So there's different things. Like you shouldn't raise a little boy to be a little girl. You shouldn't, and there's meaning behind those things. People want to complain and talk about, oh, you can't box this and say what you want, but the proof is in the past. It's what's happening. It's in the madness that's going on when you try to raise little boys to be women, or you try to feminize things, or the proof is there that it causes more harm than it does good. So there is a difference in how you raise them. But I agree with you on the aspect of how how you look at raising them as far as the double standard thing, right?
Yeah.
Because same thing with Jet. I mean, Jet's a little stud, dude, and he knows. I think he knows he's a handsome little boy, and he plays it up. And but I think if we come from the same view of how we want our children to be raised, you'll end up doing a lot of the same things for boy or girl. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The first is how is their character, right? Your character shouldn't be necessarily defined by your gender,
Yeah.
right? So you can help them build their character, um, and I think that's universal, right? The respect factor that what you were talking about, how your dad definitely did with you guys, doesn't matter about your gender. It's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Work ethic, irrelevant to gender. So these are the things that as fathers we have to focus on building up and um, across the board. And then when those little things come that are very specific to boy, girl, that, to me, it's kind of one of those things I'm gonna have to convince and try. And I think this is the beautiful thing that with our relationships that we have with our wives,
Yeah.
like being able to work this stuff out not alone is amazing. Because
Bro.
I would be completely lost and screw these kids up majorly if I was on my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Major. So the
Yeah.
fact that I have Ronnie and you got Sienna to help us and to give us other perspectives,
Yes.
it's a super super big benefit because it's something you and I don't have. We don't have the perspective of a woman. We're
We
not
don't.
females.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
to balance those two and have that communication, it's a big thing.
It's
It's
so
huge.
dope because it's kind of like what you said. Like when telling Ronnie like you're not a man, so there is an aspect of fatherhood that she doesn't have any clue
Right.
of, right? But and that was one of the things I learned. Like as a woman, Sienna brings aside from her emotional and her position as a woman, which can find its angles and corners into my fatherhood, and it really does. It's that puzzle piece that fits together. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it really has, like, we are, like you said, the two of us are able to attack this parenting thing from different perspectives and different angles. It's like a fight, right? It's like if you look at parenting as like Mike Tyson, you can get your ass knocked out. But if there's two of us, if me and you are gonna fight Mike Tyson, right, we're gonna fuck his ass up.
Yep.
So it's the same concept, like having the two people. It's a
Yeah.
different form. You're attacking at a different level. It's a different strategy, and we have different core values and different core things as a man and as a woman that we're able to provide to this one youngster,
Yeah.
and to each kid as an individual. So it's a big deal, man. You're right. It all comes full circle. I mean, it does definitely comes back around.
Yeah.
Because like my fatherhood wouldn't be where it's at if it wasn't for Sienna and Sienna being a woman and having
Well,
her
and then
perspective.
also our mothers. Right?
Yes, and mom.
I obviously. I think anybody that knows me, especially Ronnie, will be. I'm mama's boy. It's just how it worked out. And like I said, my
Yes,
dad was the
yeah,
the provider
yeah,
and the man of the house, and my mom was the nurturer. She was the
yeah.
one that we went to. She's the one that we did things with. She was all of that stuff. So obviously, the impact that a woman and that a mother has on the children as well is so extremely vital.
Yeah, it
And
is.
we're blessed enough to have some amazing women on our side,
Bro.
to help us out with that. So.
Yeah, mom is so. I love mom. Me and mom are like best friends, man. I love mom to death, but mom's perspective, mom April and mom Celia, Michael Hannah's mom Celia, like they just really molded like that idea or concept of a woman, even for me, in my personal relationship, like of what I truly really wanted, and when I understood the concept, and so it is, man. It's very important. Very. I So let me see. I got another one for you here. Okay, so this one was, and you kind of answered this question already. It says, "What was your perspective or goal in relation to fatherhood once you became a father?" So, as a youngster, then as a youngster, and now as a man. So, you've already answered it so far. As a youngster, is like the first thing you thought of, especially being 19, was like, I got to provide,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, was there anything else, or once you got your job and you're able to provide as a youngster, what was your mindset? And then now, as a father, now being 33, having 5 kids, being into your career, what is your goal now?
Yeah, so I would probably say now it would be it would be to raise probably it would be to raise good, and I use good in the sense of not just they do good in school and they do the dishes when I ask them, but I mean good in the sense of like strong moral character, um, loving kids. Like me and my siblings, we're close now. We're closer now than we've ever been. When I was younger, like me and Ayla, like we had zero relationship other than being the fact that we were brother and sister. Same thing with
Yeah.
me and Dalen. He was just there as my little wrestling buddy that I could flip and slam and choke
Try
and
new
beat up.
wrestling moves on.
Exactly. Him and my sister had a lot closer relationship because they're a lot
They're
closer
a
in
lot
age.
closer in age, yeah.
But since Dalen has had a kid and he's married, we've gotten a lot closer. My sister's older; she's got a boyfriend. We're a lot closer. Um, but that didn't happen and develop until later in life. So I really want using that. I really try to use that now as a goal to make my kids tighter as a unit all the way through. Because one of the things that I enjoy a lot, and I don't even have to be part of the conversations, I just like enjoy sitting back and listening, is when families gather and they talk about old times. Hey man, you remember when this? You remember when so and so used to do this? You remember when so and so used to do that? So I use that as a marker and like a note when I talk to the kids when they're fighting or not getting along or we have moments where we're all together to say, hey, they're not to say it, but to try to implant that in them. These moments are going to happen when you guys are all together 20 years from now, and you're going to have these stories. What do you want these stories to be? Do you want them to be, oh, so and so was he was always grumpy, or she was always mean to me, or she was like, no, like what do you want those stories to be? You want them. So I want like my goal is just to create a tight family unit um, that that will sacrifice for each other, that will look out for one another, that loves one another, and that loves the people around them. To me, family is such an important thing. I love. I've said it before, man. I love people, people being around, hanging out with people. So it's important to me that they understand that concept as well. Um, but yeah, then again, just the good moral character, and then obviously trying to be the best um, physical earthly father I can, um, as an example of what our heavenly Father is, right? Of what God is to all of us. I think is important because um, I'm flawed. I mess up. I you know do things wrong and bad all the time. But those are all learning moments and teaching moments, and
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
still learning. And I think it's an example to them to you know say sorry when you need to say sorry, and correct and all that stuff too. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like I don't know that I have an outline I'm trying to follow as an older father now. Um, but there's just little things that I don't ever try to stay too rigid on anything. I try to be I try to stay consistent, right, with the things that I'm doing and the way that I'm trying to raise them. Um, but there's always little nuances that affect how you make a decision and,
Yeah,
and the kind of direction you give your kids. So
yeah.
that's kind of how I have to navigate, especially with 5 of them. I got 5 kids with 5 different
Yeah,
personalities.
yeah,
You know, not everything is
yeah.
gonna fit. Not every kid's gonna fit in a specific box.
And
So,
Rubes has a personality worth
bro,
five.
Next level, dude. She is.
She's crazy, bruh.
Yeah.
That was like the time when she met John at the house, and he was like, "It was a pleasure to meet you." She's like, It wasn't a pleasure to meet you." I'll never forget that,
Yeah,
bro. Where
dude.
it's
She
like, where
has
does she
no
come up
mercy.
with this stuff,
I don't know.
man? Where does she come up with
She
it?
is. So they always say it, right. You're. There's always a kid where you're like your mom and dad's like, dude, they're just like you. So we've said Ruby is the worst parts of me when I was a child and the worst parts of Ronnie when she was a child.
Combined.
Just Voltron, dude.
Oh
This
man,
wild, crazy, crazy kid.
she's so cute though.
Yeah,
She's way too
she's
cute.
definitely got a personality that'll, yeah, that fits.
Oh man,
That fit. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
that's funny,
But
bro. I have my perspective when I was a kid. I remember like I was just scared, man.
yeah,
Like, of course, as we talked about, I wanted to be there, but there was a lot of fear, man. There was like a lot of fear, but I do remember just thinking like I've always had a really tight spiritual relationship with God, and just always feeling like I had mad faith in God, and just knowing that like as long as I worked hard and I made good decisions with direction I wanted to go to, God was gonna He was gonna be right there with me to help me. So I didn't stress about it too much. Although I was very fearful, I didn't stress. And but as I was able to kind of navigate through that young childhood or through that young adulthood as a father, now it's like, especially with the teamwork of Sienna, it's more so of like the morality, like we said and how we discussed, is like teaching them how to be good people, but showing them how to be good people. And ultimately it's love, you know, when they had their spats, because they're 5 years apart, and sometimes it's like Oliver he's being a little gnat to Sadie, and it's just like, hey Sadie, like you gotta love your brother and understand like this is your brother, like right now you only have one brother,
mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and explaining to her and teaching to her that everything that we have is a gift from God, our parents and our little annoying brothers.
Yeah,
But and understanding that like, you know, there's gonna be points in time where it's rough, you may not understand, but through time God will reveal it to you, and that you just always look for that guidance. Like I'm always here. I'm always gonna be your dad. I'm always gonna be here for you. I'm always gonna be able to try to answer, or always be able to try to answer everything that I can, to the full extent that I can. But just teaching that love, like to me, the love. If the more love we can teach, the more love we spread to the kids, the more that they'll kind of understand and comprehend everything else. So I kind of have it as I took a note as like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So think of it,
no,
like, you know, I think about it. You remember in elementary school, they had the little triangle of like the food and
the
nutrients that
food
you need
pyramid.
everywhere, right? The food pyramid.
Yep, that people have decided is trash now.
Right, yeah. So it's like at the very bottom of this hierarchy of needs is like the basic necessities, like of needing shelter. You need a roof, you need clothes, and you need food,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need. I mean, in the beginning, it's a sustenance, whatever's going to feed you to keep you alive
Yeah,
from not dying of hunger, right, or starving. And then from there, you move up to the next level of like, all right, once you have those things and that's not a concern, what is your focus now,
mm-hmm.
right? Then you can start building up through time, like to where maybe your focus is wealth, like you have a home, you have a shelter, you live in a nice neighborhood, you have education, and each step, each one of those levels that you're able to implement within your family or in your home, it allows the child to progress and to learn more.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So um, it's definitely something that I when I learned it, and I was probably like when I really started to get into it. And Sienna has her degree in psychology, and we always geek out on that shit. But it's definitely like a perspective that I never had, because it's like being that single mom with two or three kids.
mm-hmm.
Like those children are kind of stuck at that very base foundation of life,
Mm-hmm.
of like everyday survival. And that's all they're kind of stuck at, is like, all right, I got to work two or three jobs to take care of these kids, and they
Right.
never get to move forward emotionally. And there's a group of emotion or of effects that come with them moving on to that next level, emotionally, physically,
Mm-hmm.
mentally. You know what I'm saying? And I just really try to encompass like, okay, where are they at, and what direction do I need to move in at
Okay.
that point too as well, and then like how do I provide and when am I gonna move forward there, because it also forces me to work on it myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't
That's
want to get too
interesting.
much into the weeds
Yeah,
about it,
that's
but
interesting though,
yeah, you
for
know what I'm
sure.
saying.
Yeah. And it's that I think that's interesting too because you always hear about well you always have you, you always have like the general idea and picture of situations and circumstances like that single motherhood,
Yeah.
single fatherhood, foster kids, all this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I think what clouds a lot of people's ideas of that, especially people who are like sports fans and
Mhm.
stuff like that, is the outliers, right? The
Mm.
people that grew up in a single home or a single parent home, and now they're an NFL star,
Mm.
right? Now they're, whoever, multimillionaire, whatever, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Entrepreneur, all
Mhm.
this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's the stuff that's kind of thrown at us. Like, oh, look at what this kid did from being, working out in the streets in New Orleans, and now he's a
Yeah, through
whatever.
adversity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not common,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
something, and I wonder if that's something that's you can teach or you can understand and have that be taught to other people, um, or if it's just something that's innate in those people,
Mm.
whoever has done it,
Mhm.
because try doing that to a kid and watch him turn out like the hundred other thousand kids that grow up in crime, that grow up in poverty, that can't hold down a job,
Mhm.
that can't do all this stuff because
Mhm.
they grew up struggling,
Mhm.
right? Not the the kids that succeed out of that, they're not. That's not something that's common.
Mhm.
So I always wonder, like, man, is there what is it? Is there something that happens, or is it just something in that child
Mhm.
that gives them a drive to want to do something better and bigger to get out of it?
Mhm.
Because everyone will talk about it, but very few will actually do it and make it
Very few.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought that, yeah, I always think about that.
Mhm.
Like, man, maybe I should just walk away from my kids for a little bit, see if they see if they come up with something
See
crazy.
what they figure. See if they
Yeah,
can figure it out.
yeah. Um, okay, so this is the last one that I had written down.
Okay.
What do you want your legacy as a father to be?
Oh, that's deep,
Yeah,
bruh. You know what? I when my I want shit. I was telling Santa about this earlier. Like my current fear now, especially being a police officer, is like my goal is to make it home, and my ultimate goal of making it home and being at home is to be able to see my kids grow. As that's what I want,
yeah,
right? But as far as my kids go, like I want my kids to always see and think like, you know what, like dad always took care of us. He always worked hard, but most important was like dad, the love.
yeah,
I want my kids to know 100%, 110% undoubtedly that their dad loved them to death.
yeah.
And that's something that I want to be able to instill. And like, it stresses me out, man, because even with Ollie being young, like Ollie being 7 years old, like I'm everything to him. Sadie likes to argue. Sadie likes
Of
is smarter
course,
than dad right
she's
now.
at that point where she knows
She knows more than me,
more
right?
than adults.
And so
That's fun. I love having arguments with
uh,
those kind of kids.
bro. But I mean, she's Sadie's incredibly intelligent, but she's got a lot to learn. But I love her to death. But you know, we go back and forth, and she's always checking me and always keeping me in check. And um, like at the end of the day, I always want her to know, and I want her to feel, and I think I want to know and have that confirmation that she knows how much I love her, and
Hmm.
Oliver as well, how much he knows how much I love him.
Yeah,
And that's it, man. Like I'm kind of simple with it, but like to me that means the world. Like
yeah.
and I told C another day, like when I have that confirmation, that's when like I can die any day. Like
Hmm.
okay, I'm ready to go back to God, and I don't care. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Not in a negative sense, but I
Hmm.
mean like I made it.
Yeah.
Like that's my millionaire phase right
Yeah.
there. You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense. I mean, there's something that obviously you want to leave behind that lasts,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
what lasts longer than the love that you've given to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the fact that they can even still feel it even when you're gone and
Yeah.
stuff, that's super impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the legacy question and the legacy topic uh, has the ability to go off in a lot of different like directions.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but I think one of the things that I love um, is being a father is having the ability to kind of be free with the stuff that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Meaning, like, I can be playful with the kids. I can take a moment to have them sit around and give them, my 2 cents on what's happening in the world. I can choose to shelter them from all that stuff. I can choose to be open and honest with them. Um, but I think for me, legacy wise, I definitely, because I view it as something that they will say about me when I'm gone,
Mm-hmm.
right? For some reason, but it's something that I've done this with all the kids, not just my kids, but my nieces and nephew stuff. Um, I like being like super super playful,
Mm-hmm.
right? Love having fun with them and wrestling around and all this stuff. So I feel like I always want to be thus a source of joy
Mm.
for the people that I was around,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially my kids,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like with joy, just like with yourself, with love, there's so many things that when you say joy, there's so many things that fit inside
Yes.
that word,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that right now that would probably be the thing that I I would definitely want to be part of the legacy that I leave as a
Mm.
father is
So
that I
like
brought the
that
kids joy.
emotional
Yeah,
feeling.
that I brought the kids joy.
Mm.
Whether it was the love that I gave to them,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was the comfort I gave to them when they were hurt,
Mm.
or the happiness of playing with them and jumping around, doing crazy, silly stuff.
Mm.
Um, like yeah, being like that thing that they smile about when they think of
Mm.
me, or if I pop into their head,
Mm-hmm.
right, they start to smile
It's a
about it or whatever.
smile.
Silly, stupid, whatever, being all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the other thing about that too is that happens in different ways with different kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talking to Charlie about like true crime stuff that she's super
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Making up some silly joke and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or talking football with Jet, or
Mm-hmm.
doing silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sitting down drawing a picture with Lily. The little stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all different.
The little individual
Hmm.
personalities and being able to take the time and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and honestly, I consciously think about it quite a bit. So I try to be aware of it when I'm
Mm-hmm.
around. Like, hey, don't be the grouch uncle when you're around, or don't be the
Mm.
mean grumpy dad when you get home from work, or
Yeah.
you know. So that's the kind of stuff that I tend to purposefully and try to stay aware of
Yeah.
as I'm going about my life as a father.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's difficult, man. Like I never realized as a father that how hard that was.
Hmm.
Like not coming home grumpy or being upset or being frustrated with what's going on at
Dude.
work and like especially with me, like not only being frustrated with management
Hmm.
and top level management with the department and being like, man, what are we like, where's the common sense at?
Hmm.
And then kind of coming back into like dealing with like the most negative things that human beings do to each other and then trying to decompress. My drive home now is only 8 minutes. So I'm like, that's not enough time to decompress,
Mm-mm.
bro. So I'm
Mm-mm.
like, you know what I mean? When I used to work at Baldwin Park, it was like I had like an hour to like let me think about this and
Mm-hmm.
like dwindle down. But you're right, man. Like and kind of leaving that legacy, it's everything. It's like how you come home, how you approach this, how you approach that.
Yeah.
Especially with 5 kids, being able to understand and focus and having the time and the determination to look at each individual kid's personality and what do they need individually, and then being able to give them that time, but being able, you got to be present.
Well, and then it kind of fuels me. in the sense that there's a sense of fear there that because I have five kids, that I'm gonna neglect one of them, or I'm gonna leave one of them out, or I'm gonna make one of them feel less loved than the other. Because we joke about it, like I joke about it with my mom and dad that I'm the favorite. Ronnie does the same thing with her parents, and even like even in playing around, right? There's some kids have a certain sense of these things, and they can pull references and they can pull examples of what backs them up and how they feel. So I want mine with all five of my kids to be so difficult for them to realize, right, that dad gave us love across the board, all of us, um, that they're gonna argue amongst themselves, and every single one of them is gonna be like, "No, I was the favorite. I was." So,
Yeah.
but we'll joke now, and I'll be like, "Oh no, Jess my favorite." Right, just to get them fired up and then start a conversation and joke around and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
That's dope, man.
yeah, there's we got a lot of years under our belts as fathers. We've gone through some crazy things.
Yeah.
I mean, just being fathers at such a young age and having to figure out life.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, I know you're the same, and uh, I've had a crazy good support system around me. So
Yeah.
it's definitely not been on my own.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think, like, as a young father, like, part of your success was because of
oh, I relied,
that system?
dude, I relied heavy.
What would you say to a youngster that doesn't have that system?
That's tough. I've thought about that, and that's tough because I don't have I don't have an example to draw from myself
Personally.
personally being like literally alone as a father. Um, but I would just say it's the time that the time that you don't get to spend away as being a person that you are right now. You're a father at whatever age. That moment is the moment to let whatever patience is you're trying to develop, let it develop, because it's super important, especially with a baby and then a toddler as the kid tries to is progressing in their life. The patience that you develop for the child, it will give you so much more. It'll give you the ability to handle so much more. Right? Is just embrace that work on patience that you're getting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're gonna get stuck in moments where you just want to lose it.
Yeah.
And I had the moments where I could be like, "Hey, mom, can you come help us out? Watch the kids for a little bit or whatever." But yeah, I just don't have that reference of being
Yeah.
not having that ability. There's times when we necessarily don't, but they're moments. It's never been a consistent thing where I'm like, dude, I haven't had a break from these kids in a year, whatever, however many months. It's never been like that.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same thing because the kid's grandma, Bad, that's grandma in Vietnamese. Like, Bad's always been, she's this little cute old Vietnamese lady.
Yeah.
She's always been real instrumental in being there for me and Nee. It is. I mean, it was a little different, like we had our little battles because her parents, Nee's parents were very traditional. So especially me being black was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but at the same time, like Lee, really like she changed a lot spiritually throughout the time, and when Sadie was born, she watched Sadie. She was like at the hospital when Sadie was
Yeah.
being born, and he was giving birth, and I remember looking at her face, and she was like, "Oh my god!" And she was like, one of the nurses like, "Do you want to come see it?" I was like, "Nah, man." Looking at her face, "Nah, bro, I'm good right here, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sending by knee. That's it. Like I don't." So it was funny, but you know what I mean? It was, and I think about that a lot of times, like for a youngster, like, but I would say the only thing that you can draw from, and it's unfortunate at that point, but is from your kid, like, and humility from God, which is given to all of us, and the knowledge is there, and also the selflessness, right? Like not being selfish in the sense of like, hey, what if you're not married, what does your BM need? If you're married, what does your wife need? and what does your little boy or little girl need, or even twins, triplets, whatever it may be, what do they need?
Yeah.
And that's your guide, right? So it's if you don't have it, you have to be able to force that. And you're right, like the patience is going to grow like crazy, and it's going to be very difficult. But I would just say, like, not everything in life was made to be easy, and not everything, even with us having our support groups, we've had our ups and downs. Like,
Yes.
even with me, with the whole racing, with like Nee's family, and Nee and her cousins are all cool as fuck, and but like some of the older family was a little weird because they were just very traditional. They came over during the war, and they kind of just stuck together because that like they were just in a foreign
Yeah.
place to them, and that makes sense, man. It makes complete sense, but. So you have the little nuances that happen and occur, but through time, everyone was able to kind of get through everything and move forward and progress, and it all went in a
I'm
positive
sure the mercy
direction.
that you just talked about and you showed them helped
Yes,
get them
yeah,
through that. But
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying but I do feel like that's the one area of fatherhood I don't have a lot of, like I said, reference and example and a lot of wisdom on. Um, is the solo kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't know how I would have handled it other than having the knowledge I have now. Just saying all the moments that we grow and that are hard, they're made to make us better.
yeah.
They're not made to tear us down and break us down, even though they do that, right? But it's like muscles, right? The reason you get stronger, the reason your muscles grow is because you're breaking them down.
And
Literally,
it doesn't.
you're literally causing tears in your
Yes,
muscles,
yeah,
so then it fills back up
yeah.
because you're gaining that
And
strength.
it
It's
doesn't
just,
feel good.
it doesn't feel you're
It doesn't feel
sore.
good.
It hurts to pick up a can of soda.
Yeah,
Those little micro tears in your life. They're meant to be filled with love, and they're meant to be filled with all these things to help you grow.
yeah. Because you can't see it now, but the outcome is definitely gonna be worth it.
Amen.
Especially seeing little Booba, and he's like, "Dad, let's talk about World War II." And
Yeah.
he's like, "I want to be like my dad when I grow up." And hearing him, he's like, "I want to be a police officer." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Or even like we're in the car, we're listening to some music or something, or we might have some Jay-Z on, and he's looking at me to see if I'm dancing, and when I'm
Yeah.
dancing, he turns and he dances too, and I'm like, sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold, man.
Yeah.
And you that's something that I've created, not like something that I was given, and it's just through my love for him, and my drive in the direction of where it needs to be, and just being who he needs me to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
geez, I had more questions too, but I'm like, damn, we're hitting like an hour and 30 on this
Yeah.
motherfucker. But I because one of the last things I was thinking of, like, what would be the right age? Like, do you think, like, I mean, I wouldn't change anything that God's given me throughout my life, but do you think if you could do it different, how old would you, or how long would you have waited to have kids?
Uh, ooh. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I don't think there is a right answer. I think it the timing and the life context is everything, right? It would be um, to purposefully have a kid at 18 with nothing going on doesn't really make a lot of
It
sense,
doesn't
right?
make
That's the wrong time if we're talking about time frames to have a kid. So
Not unless you got inheritance or some
that's yeah,
bullshit.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that there is. I don't
Yeah,
know that
yeah,
there is.
yeah.
I mean, there's all the answers that people expect, right? Can you? But the one thing that I can't stand is when people say, "Oh, we're not financially ready to raise a kid, or we're not ready to raise a kid." Man, you will never be ready. You'll never be ready.
Yeah.
You'll never have everything perfectly lined up to where this kid's gonna come in the world and it's gonna be cake.
Gravy.
Don't work like that.
Yeah.
I don't care what you got in place.
Yeah.
It does not work like that. And then when you have kids and you don't have stuff together, you make it work. It's not even a thing that you think about. It's just you make it happen. So I don't know that there is. I mean, there's people that have, kids in their 40s and into that, like that's where they feel the most ready to have, to be able to bring up, a little person, and more power to them. I do like the fact now it was tough as hell when I was younger, but I do like the fact that now when I'm in retirement age and all my kids will be out the house. Well, I say that in hopes that they'll be out the house, but I
You,
don't. Yeah, we might have a full house. I might
that's
still
funny.
have 5 kids and
Yeah.
30 grandkids to living in my house, but
That's funny.
I do enjoy that aspect of it. Thinking about it now,
Yeah,
retiring.
yeah,
When
young.
from now, if I retire at 55, the baby will be 22, 23 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
Ideally, she's gone.
Yeah.
So
You know what? I've always
I do
like
like that
I'm
idea.
happy that and even now like with Sienna, like I told her, I was like, babe, we're gonna be like 33, 34 having this kid, and it's dope. Like to me, I don't care. The love is there. I'm excited. Whatever direction, whatever God gives us, but. Either way, I've always thought it'd be dope to be young, like to be a younger dad and to be able
Yeah.
to have the ability to do those things and be cool. Like,
Yeah.
I think Sadie's gonna be like, I'm gonna be like 40 something, and Sadie's 20 going on. You know what I mean? I'm 40, like 41,
Yeah.
and she'll be 20 years old,
Yep.
which is dope. So that's kind of cool to be able to have that experience. But you're
Yeah.
right, there is no perfect age. There's no perfect time because you just got to be able to like. It's almost like that's the conditioning that you get at some point in your life. Like
Right.
if you feel like, hey, I'm a selfish person, I'm gonna wait till I'm 40, right? It's gonna be tough because now you're older. You're an older person, so you have the mental, maybe the financial ability, but now you have this kid with a gang of energy, and you're like, fuck, I can't keep up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then vice versa. So there's always going to be a learning experience in having a kid.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have children, I mean, it's away from fatherhood, but there's always going to be something to learn.
Yeah. You can always be an example and a mentor, and those people are just as important. I feel like
Nieces and nephews,
all that stuff. Man,
young
it's
kids are growing up without them. Yeah, you're right.
very, very vital. Just being somebody older in somebody's life, being able to be a person that some people look up to is important.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, it's dope, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we can hit like a lot more shit, but we'll be talking for hours, huh?
Dude, we should just turn this into the Fatherhood podcast.
Shit, man.
Yeah,
Well,
it's endless.
Jay, it's always good.
Yes.
And we're gonna have to come up with our next episode too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had fun with this one. Made me think of some stuff that I haven't necessarily considered. When you go through something for so long, it kind of becomes white noise after a while.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always nice to rehash some stuff
Yes.
mentally that you kind of forget about and don't think about too often.
Yeah,
But,
refresh.
yeah. So
You're
cool,
right.
man.
I
Well,
love you,
brother.
Jay. Love you, man. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Later. That was dope, dude.